Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled City Council meeting for Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Let the record show all councilors are present. At this time, we will do Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We move on to adds and deletes. Adds, consent agendas, number 14, number 19. Number 2, adds, department committee reports, number 1C and 1D, number 3C and 3D. Adds, bids and quotes, number 1B and number 1C. Could I get approval of the agenda?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Councilor Schweberger.
Support.
Support by Councilor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. At this time, we will do swearing in of Officer Chris Ringstar. Okay. I, Chris Ringstar, have been duly appointed as a police officer for the city of Hibbing. Do hereby solemnly swear that I will defend, enforce, and obey the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Minnesota. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties as police officer to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations. All right, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Approve the minutes of the Hibbing City Council meeting of May 7, 2025. Wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Councilor Schweberger. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes of the Hibbing City Council workshop, May 7, 2025. Wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Councilor Hildebrand. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Number 1, approve accounts payable dated May 14, 2025. Checks number 179993 through 180090 in the amount of $2,495,147.44 and drafts in the amount of $125,643.14. Excuse me. Approve the payroll ending 5/16/2025 in the amount of $651,163.76. 3, accept and place on file the April 2025 Hibbing Police Department Activity Report. 4, approve the 2025 Transient Merchant License application of Harlambos Bobby Papanel of Greek Foods at 120 East Howard Street, license number 001403. Number 5, approve the raffle permit application of the Hibbing Historical Society to hold their raffle on Thursday, June 12, 2025 at Palmer's Tavern. Number 6, approve the raffle permit application of the Hibbing High School Tennis Booster Club to hold a raffle on September 2nd, 2025 at the Lickin Elementary Tennis Courts. 7, approve the special event permit application of the Hibbing Police Department to conduct community cleanup 2025 on June 6th and 7th, 2025 at the Stunts Garage, 1100 East 25th Street. 8, approve the special event permit application for the Hibbing Police Department to host National Night Out August 5th, 2025 at Bennett Park. 9, approve the special event permit application of North End Counseling Center to conduct the Walk for Life on August 16, 2025 between Bennett Park and the Memorial Building. 10, approve the mayor to sign a letter of support for the North Ends Foundation application for deed, paid leave public outreach grant. 11, approve the mayor to sign a letter of support, critical funding for Explore Minnesota Film Office. 12, approve the raffle permit application request of the Run Amok ATV Club to hold their raffle on Saturday, September 13, 2025 at Toivo's Pub. 13, approve the special event permit application of City Hibbing to hold the Hibbing Street Dance on Saturday, July 12, 2025 in downtown Hibbing. 14, approve the raffle permit application request for the Hibbing High School Activities Department to hold a raffle on Tuesday and Wednesday, June 9th and 10th, 2025 at the Masaba Country Club. 15, approve the raffle permit application request of Angel Fund to conduct a raffle at the Angel Fund Golf Scramble on Saturday, June 28th at the Hibbing Municipal Golf Course. 16, approve the raffle permit application request of Light After Loss, Minnesota to conduct bingo at the Hibbing Elks Club on July 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. 17, approve the peddler's transient merchant license for Kristen DePaulis during business as Taste of Italy. 18, approve the 2025 on-sale liquor license of Braun Holdings Incorporated, DBA, Hibbing Speedway. Number 19, approve the 2025 transient merchant license of Kona Ice on June 4th, 2025 and July 12th, 2025. 20, set the next regular Hibbing City Council meeting for Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 in the Hibbing City Council chambers. 21, set the next City Council workshop meeting for Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, following the regular Hibbing City Council meeting at 5 p.m. Wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read and published.
We have a motion by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman,
Support.
support by Councilor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Andy, is there anything for the public forum?
No.
Nothing tonight, okay. At this time, we'll move on to community department committee reports. First up, Community Development Director, Ms. Solivanti. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, my first request is to approve Resolution 250510. There's a typo on that. Authorizing an interfund loan for advance of certain costs in connection with a tax increment financing district. This is in relation to the 400 block redevelopment project to incorporate the 402 East building into the redevelopment project.
Okay, hearing what Ms. Solivanti had to say, authorizing interfund loan. Wishes of the council.
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Councilor Schweberger.
Support.
Support by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
forgot, it's in the amount of $500,000.
Okay, put that down there. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. B, Ms. Solivanti.
Excellent. This second item is to authorize the expenditure from Land Acquisition Fund for the 402 East Howard Street acquisition by the Hibbing Economic Development Authority in the amount of $275,000 plus closing costs. This purchase has been reviewed by Planning Commission at their recent meeting on Monday night and approved that it's within alignment of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, hearing what Ms. Solivanti had to say regarding land acquisition fund expenditure, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Fossil. Support. Support by Councilor Whitney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. C, Ms. Solivanti.
This request is to approve transfer of $6,376.94 for closing costs from the Land Acquisition Fund to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for the acquisition of 2810 Diane Lane that will be completed on Thursday of this week.
Okay, hearing what Ms. Solivanti had to say regarding closing costs for land acquisition, wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Hoffman-Sockman.
Support.
Support by Councilor Hildebrand. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Finally, D, Ms. Solivanti.
My final request is to request approval for a request for redevelopment of proposals for 3,215 14th Avenue East in Hibbing, Minnesota. This is our Nortec property that we had recently purchased as a backup site for the public safety building. And at this time, that site is no longer needed for public safety after the work that's been done to secure the primary site for the development of that project. Therefore, this site is now going through our process as surplus, and this is the first step in that process.
Very good. Hearing what Ms. Olivanti had to say regarding requests for redevelopment proposals. Wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Councilor Bayless. Any other questions for Ms. Olivanti? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Betsy. This time we'll move on to City Engineer Jesse Story.
Mayor, Council, the county and MnDOT will be working together to reconfigure the intersection of Town Line Road and Highway 73. St. Louis County will be asking the City Council to pass a resolution approving the preliminary layout of the intersection. We do have Vic Lund with St. Louis County and Alex Peretz with MnDOT here to give a presentation of this project.
Very good. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
And welcome to the council meeting.
Thanks for the presentation this time. Here and all those people.
It's always good to have good help.
So, yeah, just speak in mic.
Very good. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I actually printed something. Are these?
Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you and talk about an exciting project. At least I think it's exciting. My name is Vic Lund. I'm the traffic engineer for St. Louis County. And we're here to talk about the intersection of Trunk Highway 73 and CASA 16 and CASA 60, also all known as Town Line Road, on the southwest corner of the city of Hibbing. Before I get into the project specifics, I'll try to move quickly through here just to keep us proceeding here, right, in a good pace. But I do want to lay some background in terms of why the project, okay? Well, it comes down to traffic safety. The number one priority of St. Louis County, as is for the Minnesota Department of Transportation, is the safety of the traveling public. And that's why Minnesota is one of the several states that exist where we are a toward zero death state, okay? What that means is that we believe that traffic fatalities are unacceptable. We believe that traffic fatalities are completely avoidable, and we can arrive at that goal. We believe it is possible to arrive at a goal of zero traffic fatalities in the state of Minnesota. And you say, well, Vic, how is that possible? Well, let's start at the local level. Is it possible to reach zero traffic fatalities in the city of Hibbing? Yes. How about St. Louis County? Yes. And we can work that way, right? We work towards that end through a data-driven approach. We are interested in reducing fatalities. It's towards zero deaths, not necessarily towards zero crashes. Okay, so a lot of our safety programs at St. Louis County and MnDOT, which we have a vast safety program, I would say, to accomplish that goal, again, is focused specifically on those serious crashes, fatalities, and traffic serious injuries. 5 E's, the Minnesota Towards Zero Deaths, 5 E's, education, enforcement, engineering, emergency response, and the fifth one, everyone, because it comes down to a traffic safety culture. These are not nice numbers to look at, but they're important to remind ourselves. This is the most recent data that NHTSA provides. 2022, there were 42,514 people with names, with families, with friends, with coworkers that were killed in a traffic crash somewhere on a road in the United States. But let's break that number down a little bit. In the time that for this city council meeting, there will be at least 5 people that we would anticipate that'll be killed in a traffic crash someplace in the United States. It's about 116 per day. Put that in perspective. A typical airliner in the United States has about 100 to 125, 150 people on it. That's approximately equivalent to having one airliner crash every day somewhere in the United States, killing everybody on board. And it happens every day, and it never stops. It just happens to be in disaggregated events, right? So here in Minnesota, I would encourage you to check out the Towards Zero Death website, the Towards Zero Death efforts. Alex Peretz and myself are a part of that. I just snapped this picture from the website yesterday. As of yesterday, there have been 115 traffic fatalities in Minnesota. At that same time in 2024, there were 139. So we're certainly better this year than we were last year. The lowest fatality numbers that we have achieved in Minnesota was in 2019, and then COVID happened. Something happened with the culture, with the attitudes that existed out there. Our numbers went up in 2020, they went up in 2021, they went up again in 2022, and we're finally starting to see coming back from that. Reference, back in 2003 and before, there was about 600 to 650 fatalities per year in the state of Minnesota. In 2024, we're down to 477, but in 2019, we were down to about 380 approximately, okay? In terms of what's causing these traffic crashes, well, it really comes down to the top three of roadway departure, right angle, or a T-bone crash at an intersection, and crashes involving peds and bikes. So just those three types of crashes, 3/4 of all the fatal crashes, serious crashes, in the state of Minnesota are represented just by those three. So if we could keep people in their lanes, if we could keep T-bone or angle crashes from occurring, and if we could keep or minimize the conflicts between peds and bikes, imagine the impact that we could achieve. And a lot of that is informed by the safe system approach. And if you don't mind, there's a quick 30-second video that I think will be impactful to help explain the safe system approach. And as I play this, let me say this. The safe system approach says this, is that humans make mistakes. We as people make mistakes. I'm not a perfect person. No one's a perfect person. We make mistakes. But we shouldn't have to pay with those mistakes with the death penalty. And so we can do that through traffic safety culture. We can do that through design. We can do that through the vehicle design. But let's just take a look at this quick video and see what that looks like. And my volume is not up. Okay, well, I apologize for that. I should have checked that. This is a video basically showing that this lady stands in front of multiple layers of different material types, and this large metal ball comes crashing at her. And through all the successive layers, i.e. they represent the layers of traffic safety, it stops the metal ball before it hits her. So that's the concept behind the safe system approach. All right, so I'll put that back up. All right, good enough. All right, so in January 2024, St. Louis County submitted a funding application to the Local Partnership Program, LPP, to MnDOT. Basically what the LPP program does is it provides state trunk highway funding to local agencies that have priorities on the trunk highway system, whereas MnDOT may not necessarily have a priority. The city of Hibbing is an eligible applicant for that. The county was notified in April 2024 that the project was selected for funding at the intersection of Highway 73 and CASA 16. Here's some past projects that we've completed, mostly down in Hermantown. We've completed 7 of those LPP projects. Why the project? Well, it has high risk. It's ranked in the top 3% of intersections by risk. So of all the 1,500 plus intersections in St. Louis County, this is in the top 3%. In other words, it's at the top of expecting something bad to happen in the near future based on the presence of these risk factors, which are correlated with serious crashes. But looking at the actual crash history, we see that the crash rate, okay, so think of it like a garden hose, the amount of water coming out of a hose at any per unit of time. So there's about 0.9 crashes every time we have 1 million vehicles enter through that intersection. The state average for a similar intersection, rural two-way stop controlled intersection, is about 1/5 of that, about 1/6 of that approximately, 0.1 crashes per million entering vehicles. Now, the critical crash rate, what that means is it's a statistical assessment to say, is what we're seeing out there normal or not? Okay? So think of this bandwidth of everything within the bandwidth is normal. So you're going to see crash history going up and down, up and down. Sometimes it's above average, sometimes it's below average. Just because it's above average doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right? Because it's just kind of walking in that normal spectrum. But anything above that top line, we would say, now we got a problem. There's something statistically wrong that we can't explain going on at this intersection, and that's exactly what's happening here. We are above, that's 1.25 times above that top line. Here's the collision diagram showing the map of those crashes over that 5-year period. You can see that we have 2 angle crashes. We have a rear end crash. With that rear end crash involved a southbound vehicle waiting to make a left turn, and they were rear-ended by another vehicle coming from the north. So the question then becomes, so what kind of safety strategies ought we consider for an intersection like this? And one of the ways or sources we can reference is the Federal Highway Administration proven safety countermeasures. And I passed out 2 sheets from the Federal Highway Administration of those proven safety countermeasures of the countermeasures that we're planning to deploy at this intersection. Now, the word proven is important. What that means is it's gone through rigorous academic study, and results are consistent across the nation. For example, if I install a rumble strip on the shoulder of the roadway, it's been proven that I'm going to see about a 30 to a 35% reduction in single vehicle running off the road crashes. It's just that's what's going to happen. High confidence. The same thing for these left turn lanes. We estimate about 48% reduction in the probability of a future crash just by installing left turn lanes. If you look at lighting, we estimate between 33 and 38% reduction in risk of having a crash at the intersection just by installing lighting. Okay, and we kind of put those things together and come up with a composite potentially. The other issue with that intersection is a skewed intersection. 35 degrees is the current skew. Okay, a couple problems with that. First, if you're a driver on the side street, particularly on the acute angle, you have to turn your head much farther than may be comfortable. This is amplified for older drivers who may not be able to turn their head as well. So that's an issue. So in other words, from the side street, as the driver, you need to be looking for the gap. It's the side street driver that determines if there's going to be a crash. It's the major street driver that determines the severity of the crash because they have all the kinetic energy. Okay? Now, not only from a gap selection issue, but also if you're a pedestrian or a bike, it's a longer crossing distance. You have more exposure as you cross the highway. So for that reason, we have 3 issues out here looking at turn lane configuration, lighting, and elimination of the skew. I put those red arrows on that chart. This is based on Minnesota data and national data, excuse me. But we would estimate somewhere between a 15 and 20% reduction in the risk of crashes just by correcting the skew. So now you can kind of, in your mind, get a sense of the safety benefits that we're expected to achieve. A couple of quick examples. This is down in Hermantown. This was a federally funded safety project at the intersection of Midway Road and West Arrowhead Road. Just to give you a sense of a turn lane project. I know nothing glorious necessarily to look at, but just referencing what this will look like approximately. Over in Solway Township at the Coons Aggregate Gravel Pit, also a turn lane project that the county led. All right, project details. So I mentioned the 3 components of the project: turn lanes, so left and right turn lanes both, realigning both the side streets, CASA 16 and 60, to create a perpendicular intersection, and intersection lighting. Funding, again, I mentioned for the LPP program, $1.7 million in state trunk highway funds that'll be provided for the project. State aid, St. Louis County receives state aid funds for its county state aid highway system, just like the city of Hibbing does for its municipal state aid street system. So we'll be using approximately $750,000 of that for approximate total project cost of about $2.5 million right now at the kind of a 30% level cost estimate. Looking at bidding in November or December, or let's say winter of 26-27, this is a 2027 construction project. And in terms of construction impacts, we're not sure yet. We haven't gotten to the point of phasing. We're at the point early, which I'll explain right now. We're just trying to figure out the geometry. okay? So what we're sharing here, and this is also shared with the council members, this is the current layout that we're asking for concurrence with from the Hibbing City Council. And the reason I'm gonna get into, well, I'll tell you why in a second, why we're asking for that concurrence now. But first of all, just kind of quickly showing the components here. North is to your right, east is to your down lower right corner. This is the Maple Hill Community Club, and we have been working with them extensively already in terms of what those impacts are. The two main impacts for the community club that we're currently working through to see if it's a viable option is their septic system likely would be impacted, which means it would have to be a cost of the county to replace their septic system. Good news, their current septic system, according to the county records, is from 1980. So probably not compliant. So the fact that they would get a new septic system at the cost of the county, probably a benefit. We're also looking at for concerns in terms of overflow parking. They currently use this kind of a rectangular parcel here for overflow parking. We're looking at maybe repurposing this area from where the road used to be for overflow parking. Again, we're still working through the details. We don't necessarily know where we're at yet, but we'll get there in a second. Overall project schedule. So this year, we're looking for city approval for the layout. We have to go through a design variance, which I'll mention just in a second. And we're making sure everything is viable from a right-of-way acquisition standpoint. Once we go through those three check boxes, then we can get into design, formal right-of-way acquisition, municipal consent, which is a formal process we have to go through yet in 2026, bidding, late 26, early 27, with construction in 2027. So the real estate impacts, it looks like 2 parcels right now that we're focused on as potential impacts and how to mitigate those and making sure that they're viable. The design variance, because it's the county state aid highway, the curves that we're planning for the side streets don't meet the state aid standards, which are a state rule, okay? So the same thing for the city street applies. You have to meet state aid standards, certain dimensions, lane widths, grades, shoulder widths, all those sorts of things. But one of the design standards for a county state aid highway is you have to have a 40-mile-per-hour design speed, even though we're coming up on a stop condition, okay? What that means is then I have to give a presentation to the State Aid Design Variance Committee on June 26th, and they will hear my case and see if it's a realistic ask, and if they agree, they will give us a approval for those substandard curves. And the reason for the substandard curves is because if we used a 40-mile-per-hour curve, you can imagine the impacts much bigger, because those radius are much bigger, okay? We're trying to balance the impacts from real estate to the purpose of achieving the goal of a perpendicular intersection. Municipal consent, this project does require municipal consent because it is a county state aid highway within the city limits of a city in the state of Minnesota. And so what we're requesting, and we find this to work a lot more better for the project development process, is we work with the city council for where that project is located to get concurrence with, we'll call it the layout. And the reason we would ask for that is because we don't want to come back to the city council, let's say in August of 2026, after all the design has been entered or completed, right-of-way acquired, and then the city might say, well, we have some concerns. Well, let's have those conversations now if there's concerns, and so that gives us, the county as a road authority, confidence to proceed into design, because we don't want to be in a situation where the county expends all the resources to get to a 90% plan and then not get municipal consent, okay? So that's why the two-step process. All right, with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions. This presentation I was shared with City Engineer Jesse Story. I'm sure it will be shared with you as the council members. There is a link on the bottom of that last page. Feel free to go there. There's a project website. You can follow the project status. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for a presentation. It sounds like you've already been having conversations with those that would be impacted, and you addressed a few of those when you spoke about overflow parking. And is there anything else? Has there been any resistance, I guess is what I would ask, of what you're planning?
We would say no resistance. There certainly is question marks of viability.
Yes.
So we don't know those, that's why we have to go through the process. It's part of a normal process. We
Yep.
have to search out what are the alternatives and which ones have advantages, et cetera. So that's where we're at right now. Our commitment to both property owners, of course, is to maintain their access. Our commitment is if we have any adverse impacts like their septic system, that's
Yep.
gonna be replaced, et cetera, all those things.
And I notice on this, knowing this area, there is quite an elevation. That
Yep.
approach is gonna have to be elevated, I think, on both sides.
Yes,
But you have the room, it's a field, so, I mean, you've got a lot of property to work with.
yes.
I do like that it's 40, you're making it 90s, so it's, you know, it's a straight T across
Mhm.
front. And I have seen the ones and used the ones in Hermantown, so I know what you're talking about, so. That's the only questions I have, council.
Mayor,
Yes,
where it bumps out there into that field,
Mhm.
who owns that field?
Actually, if I want to bring that back up on the screen. All right, so you'll see there's actually three parcels on the east side of 73 here. So there's this first parcel here, this is owned by the community club. There's a second parcel which the building is on, that's also owned by the community club. This parcel down here is owned by the property owner in the southwest corner. So they own across 73 over to this field. And so that's the field access right there that we would have to be, because currently they get access through the community club to get to their field. And so this project would give them direct field access. We would acquire a permanent easement there to make sure that they have full access to that field after the project.
And the community club has no, objection to cutting through their field like that?
That's what we're working through right now in terms of, that's where they show their overflow parking. And so that's where we're at. We're evaluating currently where we have Highway 16 today. That's where we're looking at making that a overflow parking area, which is why we're showing this new driveway directly across from the new driveway for the community center. And so basically what would happen then is for overflow parking, you would park over here, you would then walk across 16 into the community center. Whereas today you would park here and walk through the field into the woods into the community center.
And I think Nelson's used to own that property, across town line there, that was a junkyard for a long time. Does that affect their access to their property
No,
at
there's
all?
no effect to their access,
Okay.
no. There would be a slight extension on Pintar Road, which is a city street. So you can see that little extra, probably about 50 feet of extension, that would be city street.
If I can add in quick on the layout as well, Alex Parrots with MnDOT. If you look, the community center right now has a 2-axis up in front. So one would be closed and moved to this location that, Vic is talking, would be across from that parking overflow. The other one would be still more on that east side, but reconfigured with the project as well. So you'd still have 2 accesses, it'd just be one would be moved a little over to accommodate that crossing to get to the overflow parking.
Mr. Mayor?
yes, Counselor.
So Jesse, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any initial thoughts or anything, or what this might impact the departments and everything?
Mayor, council, I live south of here, so I drive through this multiple times a day. I've seen many crashes here. A big part of it is the skew when people come up from Town Line Road. I looked at the design, as far as on paper, the 2D that they have, I don't see any issues at all. I would be in full support of this project.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
It looks good to me, as long as these people are taken care of
Yep.
and are happy
Right.
with it, I would have no
Right.
problem supporting it.
No, I'm happy, I didn't realize it was that active of a intersection. I knew there were a lot of issues on 73, but I didn't know just about this one.
Yep.
So, I mean, I appreciate you finding the funding to move this forward and in such a timely manner, knowing how long it takes to have this stuff done, so. I applaud both of you on that, so thank you. Counselors, anything else?
Just maybe a question, Mayor, about the state aid funds, that 750,000, would that be our state aid funds that would go towards that, or is that a different pot of money?
This is all, it would be county state aid funds.
Okay.
So there's no cost participation by the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Council, I would ask that council approve the resolution 25-05-09.
Okay, hearing what Mr. Story had to say and the fine presentation we just had, wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Hoffman Sockman,
Support.
support by Councilor Bayless. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to building official, Mr. Pat Green. Great presentation.
Mayor and council, item A is, let's see. Oh, yeah. Too many. Approve the conditional use for St. Louis County and Hibbing Solar LLC. What they want to do is construct a solar farm on our closed landfill. We do have a zoning district called CLR on that landfill, closed landfill restricted zoning district. And what this would be, there would be no structures in any of the methane area. We corresponded with MPCA. We had our ordinance changed because it didn't state that structures couldn't be in that methane area. So this would just be the solar project, and Hibbing Solar, one condition would be they're bidding on this to St. Louis County and Minnesota Power. They have to have this in order to bid. The project would not actually start for 3 years. Our conditional use states 1 year for the project to start. It's good for. So the condition would be that this permit would be good for 3 years. If it is not started, then it would be terminated, that permit, and they'd have to come back to apply. So the Planning Commission recommended approval. It appears to be a good use for a landfill.
Mr. Green, I have a question. What is the size of the solar farm? What is going to be produced?
The total megawatts?
Yes, megawatts. Yep.
I do not have that with me tonight. It's quite large.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get that to you, Mayor.
Well, you know, it's a nice way to utilize land that can't be used for anything else, so it is a nice complementary project. All right, hearing what Mr. Green had to say regarding approving a conditional use permit. Request for Hibbing Solar LLC. Wishes of the council.
Motion to approve?
Motion approved by Councilor Fossil,
Support.
support by Councilor Whitney. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
And that would
Opposed?
include the condition?
Yes,
Three,
for 3 years.
yes.
Yep, nope, for 3 years, as you stated. And we do have opposed nay, motion carries. B, Mr. Green.
The applicant on this one is requesting an adjustment to a mini storage property that he purchased on Town Line Road that had a conditional use permit. When he purchased it, the previous owner had brought in shipping containers for storage. We weren't aware of it. It wasn't part of the original conditional use. The new owner knew nothing about it. When we became aware of it, we contacted him, told him the step he'd have to go through, and he applied right away for this, to adjust the previous conditional use. There's been no problem. I've never had a call on that mini storage out there. And one condition that he would like, he has more room, and storage containers do make sense for, and he has them all rented now, but for a maximum of 20. And on that property, it appeared like that would fit without being an eyesore or anything. So that was one of the conditions, and the Planning Commission recommended approval for this adjustment.
Hearing what Mr. Green had to say regarding conditional use permit for Mr. Chamernick on Tammany Road, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Bayless. Support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mr. Green, number C.
On this, the Habitat for Humanity acquired the lot at 3705 Third Avenue West. We had a building also torn down there, and the lot is 100 feet wide. It's one parcel, and what they're requesting is to make it 2 lots. Each one would be 50 feet wide. In the R2 zone, right now under our zoning is minimum of 60 foot wide. Every lot on 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue and on that block and the block across the street at one time, they're all 50 feet wide. So it would not affect the neighborhood at all. I think at one time in our R2 zones, they were 50 foot, you know, for minimum width. I don't see any problem with that. The council does have the right to, when you're doing a plat exemption, that you can exempt other items, and that would be to, these 2 lots would be 50 foot instead of 60. And they already started, they have 1 home on the parcel now that Habitat started building, and they made sure that it was set back from the property line if they split it like this. And they'll build 1 more home on that corner then. Planning Commission recommended approval. I see no problem.
All right, hearing what Mr. Green had to say regarding approving a subdivision plat exemption to 50-foot lots, which, as Mr. Green stated, is very consistent with the neighborhood. Wishes of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Hoffman Sockman.
Support.
Support by Counselor Schweberger. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item D, Hibbing Economic Development is proposing to rezone a parcel at 2810 Diane Lane, known, which you know as Jefferson School. That parcel is zoned, has 2 different zones existing: planned development for the part of the school, and to the west is light industrial for the whole 10-acre parcel. The proposal is to rezone it to R3, which is multiple family dwelling. R3 allows single family or duplexes, triplexes, all the way up to 16 units per acre, which made the most sense for now for that area for future development. It does follow the comprehensive plan, and Planning Commission recommended approval on that total, that 10 acres to be rezoned R3.
Okay.
There is R3 close to the south, then there is residential to the north.
So it's being zoned for continuation of the Glacier
Correct.
residential area.
Yes.
Very good. Hearing what Mr. Green had to say regarding approving a zoning amendment request of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority. Wishes of the council.
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Counselor Schweberger.
Support.
Support by Counselor Hildebrand. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move on to City Administrator, Ms. Pasinski. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you. So, a couple items from my office this evening. The first item is a letter of intent, and I want to make sure that everybody got a copy of it and/or saw it in the email that I sent earlier today. If you didn't, I can provide one. Literally one. So first of all, my apologies for the lateness of that letter of intent. Took me a little bit to put it together. Thank you, Andy, for your help assembling it. So to kind of tee it up, this is a letter of intent. We've been talking about the the animal shelter property, the building on the property. This letter of intent would be our ask to the Airport Authority Board, their permission to sell us a 5-acre parcel of land that includes that building. It lays out a high-level terms and conditions, so let's just say the city council approves this letter of intent, we send it off to the airport authority. They concur, yes, city council, we will sell that 5 acres to you. There'll be additional terms and conditions laid out in a purchase agreement. So this isn't the end-all document to have that transaction occur. So I wanted to point that out. It does kind of give us an idea of some of the hoops and boxes we'll need to check. Hopefully you had a chance to review that. Also wanted to point out that I would suggest we change a couple of things. First thing would be the front page. I would prefer, instead of going to the CHA, it'll go directly to the board chair and board from the mayor and city council. I think that would be the best way to do it. Those transfers of ownership of property should come from the decision makers. So I'd make that suggested edit. Other than that, I would be open for questions and comments, and I'll try to answer those. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Krasinski, and I think what you're following up on is basically direction of the council that, you know, we feel as we move forward with restructuring the animal shelter, that ownership of the land was, we felt, very important. So that's the step you're taking right now.
Correct.
Councilors, do you have any questions for Mr. Krasinski?
I would just like to say thank you to our city administrator for getting this together, because we have been workshopping this. We've had many conversations about this, and it is a well-thought-out letter, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, and as you're reviewing that, I'll just mention, I did touch base with the general manager at the airport. We've had a couple of staff meetings. I think we maybe even reported that to the city council. Just coordinating this letter of intent. He did give a report to the board on Monday evening, talking a little bit about the letter of intent, the ask, the whys. There are additional questions that the board has, but we'll do some additional engagement with staff and the board and try to get an idea of what the pathway is. So, along with an estimate of costs to not just purchase, but also, you know, this is a piece of airport property under the authority, or the purview, I should say, of the FAA. So there'll be some hoops to jump through to do that.
Very good. Any other questions? Very good. You're good, Mr. Krasinski, then? Anything else?
I would appreciate action on,
Oh, you want action on this?
Please.
Okay, very good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Very good. We have a motion by Councilor Schweberger,
Support.
support by Councilor Bayless. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
I do have an additional item, if I may.
Yes.
Mayor and City Council, thank you. So I have an additional item for you this evening. I would like to report up to our residents and the City Council on the Hibbing Speedway, some of the improvements that have been made. We did talk about, back in January, a new vendor. He was approved by the City Council, again, back in January. Talked about some of the improvements that needed to be made. So what I would like to do is just give a high-level overview of that. I'll talk a little bit about the methodology also, but so the internal resources that we used, we've put an engineer's estimate at $140,000, $375, and those dollars are actually baked into our budget. So we used internal resources, whether that be staff time, materials, trucks, et cetera. And then also a catch fence. The city council had approved that about a month ago or so. I think that catch fence is almost installed, ready to go. Cost of that, and that was a cash outlay, $54,700. So the total that we're estimating right now, $195,075. We do have some additional material to move, and we'll kind of do a closeout of this report once that's all done. So high-level report on the methodology to get that report generated. We moved about 4,448 yards of millings. We used for that report the internal cost to produce those millings as opposed to like a retail cost that, you know, somebody would sell on the open market. Our estimate was $25 per yard to produce. I think that was through engineering. And then we included some topsoil that we used, and we have a borrow pit for that, so we didn't include a retail cost or an internal cost for that, but there was a transportation cost that we included in that report. And then the rest of it got folded into staff time, equipment use, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the last thing that I would mention to the city council, just so it's all clear kind of how this all went down, we did allow that new vendor to use some of our equipment. Why did I do that? Why was that decision made internally to allow that to happen? Because that venue is ours, and when we own that equipment, what we try to do is deploy that, leverage that equipment for the betterment of the community. Remember, all that equipment is owned by our taxpayers, so every time it gets used, a portion of value is taken out of it. But the rationale was allowing that individual to use their own labor to use a piece of equipment that we own. We thought that was a pretty good partnership. I hope you all agree. If you don't, please let me know. But that was the rationale behind how we have kind of gotten to the point where we're at right now. And remember, they'll do practice on Saturday with an opener on 5/31. So we're almost to the point where that track is ready to go. And still a lot of work to do, painting and et cetera, but we're in a pretty good spot. So hopefully that was not too much detail. I'd be open to questions if the city council has any for me.
Okay, you heard Mr. Prusinski. Anybody have any additional questions other than the information he passed on to us today?
There was a nice article in the paper with, what's his name, Barry?
Barry.
Yeah, on the speedway and everything too, so looking forward to seeing the end product.
Yeah, good, thank you.
We really cleaned, I know one thing that happened, thanks to the city crews for really cleaning up that area, working with Barry and under direction of Jesse and John and Jim, and just outstanding job of cleaning up. It looks so much nicer around there.
Good.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Prusinski?
Just curious on how the drainage issue went up there. Greg, you know they did work on the drain on the infield of the track? Did that turn out okay?
Mayor, council, so far, talking with Barry, we've met a few times on site. The drain that goes to the east does work. So that's how we graded that infield, was to get to that drain pipe.
Okay.
So we're hoping that everything drains good now.
And I think we took a lot of material out of that infield, so there should be a holding pond and a way for it to drain out. So short answer is, I think it's gonna be pretty good. It'll be better. Remember, that'll be a work in progress, so as time goes on, we'll make certain changes just based on kind of what's going on out there, so.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none? Thank you, Greg, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to bids and quotes, and again, back to you, Mr. Story.
Mayor, council, as the public safety building project has kicked off, we received 2 quotes for the special inspection services for this project. These services include soils testing, concrete, mortar, and steel testing. These are a requirement of the project. We received 2 quotes, low quotes from NTS in the amount of $17,789. This worked out really well because they did our soils investigation, preliminary engineering for the site. So it works out really well when you have the same company doing both testing services. So I'm asking for council to approve this quote from NTS.
And what was the amount again? Jess?
$17,789.
Okay. Hearing what Mr. Story had said regarding special inspection services, wishes of council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. B.
Mayor, Council, if you recall, we hired IEA to put together a plan for asbestos removal at the public safety building site in the existing building. They did receive 3 quotes, low quotes from ACCT Incorporated in the amount of $57,920. This is a requirement, like I said, before we do the demo of the project, so I'm asking for council approval.
Okay, we're looking for support for abatement of the existing Hibbing Public Safety Facility. Public Works, wishes of council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Hoffman Sockman.
Support.
Support by Counselor Schweberger. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. C, Jesse?
Mayor, Council, so for dust control this year, so we usually follow the county's bid process when they bid this project out. This year, they use EOTech and Envirotech. They honored their price for last year, $1.37 a gallon. I did reach out to Trimark, who we've used the last 7 or 8 years for chloride. They will match that price of $1.37 per gallon. So I would ask the council that we award it to Trimark. They've done a very good job for us. They know our roads, they know our maps. This year, we're gonna apply roughly 56,000 gallons of magnesium chloride. That totals about $76,000. We have $84,000 budgeted for dust control. So I'm asking for council to approve the contract with Trimark.
Okay, hearing what Mr. Story had said regarding dust control, wishes of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Schweberger.
Support.
Support by Counselor Fossil. Any discussion? Jesse, just one thing, this will cover the Mindview Road also?
Yep, Mayor, Council, we actually will apply dust control twice to the Mindview Road. We worked to deal with the county. They're gonna apply dust control tomorrow up at the county building, because we're looking at dust control from Trimark the last week of May. So we
Okay,
wanted to get that before Memorial Weekend.
very good.
So they'll hit it tomorrow, and then once Trimark comes through, we'll apply it again.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
This time, we move on to Superintendent Wastewater, Mr. Hurd.
Mayor, council members, the first thing I have is to replace the ductwork in our pump house. The current stuff that we have is pretty deteriorated, and the ductwork helps us vent off the sulfur dioxide gas, which eats our equipment up pretty good. So I would recommend going with Mike's Heating and Sheet Metal LLC, and amount of $6,785.
Okay. Hearing what Mr. Hurd had to say regarding ductwork in his pump house, wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Fossil.
Support.
Support by Counselor Hildebrand. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. B.
The second item I have is lighting, to upgrade the lighting to LED in the same building. Replace all the exhaust fans. We'll keep the units and just replace the motors on all those to save some costs on that. And I would recommend going with Iron Range Electric, and amount of $17,520.
Hearing what Mr. Hurd had to say regarding lighting and exhaust fan replacement work, wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Bayless.
Support.
Support by Counselor Schweberger. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. C.
The next item I have is, we have 2 older trickling filters from the 1987 construction, I believe. And what happens is the water constantly goes on the inside of it, and it's starting to go through, and then it will freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw, and that pops the outside of the concrete off, and so we have to repair that. And I want to spray line the inside of that to prevent that, so it's like actually putting a wall into there. I had 2 bids on this one. It's kind of a new technology. We used some of it on some of our launders before in years past. And there was only one company that really did it, and now there's another one that came out within the last couple of years that started doing it, and they're like half the price. So initially, I got quotes for doing one trickling filter, and the one company came in really low, and they could do 2 trickling filters for the price of the other company doing 1. So we have to shut our plant down for 2 to 3 weeks to actually get this to dry out and stuff, so it's easier to do it all in one go. So I'd recommend going with Summit Infrastructure to do 2 trickling filters in an amount of $153,870.
Hearing what Mr. Hurd had to say, wish of the council.
Motion to approve?
Motion approved by Councilor Fossil, support by Councilor Schweberger. Dave, budgeting for this, was this something that was in your budget?
Yes, and
Okay.
we budgeted $180,000 for this, so
Very good.
it's a little bit under budget.
I figured you had because of this number.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure, so.
Yep,
And that's even better news than we wanted to hear, so.
yes.
All right, we have a first and a second, wishes of the council.
Use
Or
the vote.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Dave,
Thank you.
appreciate it. We move on to fleet manager.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'll take
okay.
this. Mayor Council attaches a quote from RMS for a Rockland loader bucket. So this is for our new loader. This is a loader bucket with teeth on it. So when we're digging in our millings pile right now, we send up an excavator to break up the pile. With this, we'll be able to use the loader, and it's not so hard in the equipment. Year to date, we've received $83,664 in surplus funds from equipment that we've auctioned. So we'd like to use those funds to cover the cost of this loader bucket, which is $17,700 from RMS.
Okay, hearing what Mr. Story had to say regarding an attached quote for Rockland loader bucket, wish of the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Hoffman Sockman. Support. Support by Councilor Hildebrand. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. B. Gus.
Mayor Council attaches a quote from L&L Rental for a new cement mixer. Currently, our one needs a new drum on it, has a crack in the drum. The cost of this mixer is $4,030, and this will come out of the same surplus funds
Okay.
as the previous.
Very good. Hearing what Mr. Story had to say regarding cement mixer, wish of the council.
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Councilor Schweberger. Support. Support by Councilor Whitney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Could I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Bayless. Support.
Support.
Support by Councilor Schweberger. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.